So we're talking 75, yeah. And I had a leaflet, which I took back from the Renstrike. It's all very exciting, whatever. And I remember going back, showing this leaflet to my housemaster at Marlborough, and he took one look at it and went, well, they need teaching the facts of life. And I thought, yes, I'm going there. That's the place.
If I take you back to 61, most of us had come from the kind of school education where notes had been dictated to us for endlessly. Nobody had ever really made us think. Now, this was the first time, I think, that I'd met a group of people who were genuinely committed to devising courses which were actually going to say to us, you think you can reach this level, we're going to take you, in terms of your intellectual thought process, we're going to take you into another dimension.
I did my first degree in Oxford, and it was great in all kinds of ways, but it was single sex and it was rather old-fashioned. And so when I was looking to do a PhD, I thought, I can't stay in this place for another 3 years. I mean, the colleges were single sex, can you imagine it?
I came to Sussex because of its politics, because I had been very active in various kinds of things, CND and anti-Vietnam War before Sussex.
And this is sort of the mid-60s?
This is the mid-60s, because I was brought up in a socialist family. So I chose Sussex by myself, against the advice of my teachers, because I thought it would be a very exciting, radical and very different place certainly from Yorkshire. Academically, socially, politically, geographically. I mean, when I first came here, I thought I was in a different country.
So I took it because of Brighton, and this was just the city that I wanted to be in. I had one of those moments when I found Brighton and the University of Sussex that I just thought, that's the place that I need to be.
Politics played a big part for me. I was very active when I was a student before, and I was looking at a course that only Sussex offered. I was combining engineering with international development and combining social science with a science like that, or a practical skill. In Europe, at least, was the only place that was offering. And again, it was the first time it was starting off this course. It was very much looking at being, pioneering, being part of something new, and at the same time being at one of the most sort of politically active universities in the country.
Well, let's talk about protest then. I think you have to think carefully about the effect of an occupation or the effect of a rent strike, the sort of things Dorothy's saying, and that protest is not in and of itself a good thing. You have to be clear about what you're protesting for and about and how it seems to me and who you're affecting when you protest and so on. But I think the bigger question is whether or not that tradition, which, Sussex has a very fine tradition of it, both protest in the form of occupation, but also protest, if you like, in the form of the Mandela scholarships, which were a form of a real form of activism.
Ian Blair, who was the head of the Met Police, wasn't he? He gave a lecture which was promoted, and there were some students outside protesting, and so I was lucky to get in fact. And the main entrance to the medical school was kind of blockaded, essentially. And we got in, and the lecture started. And then all through the lecture, there was this noise going on outside. You could tell that you were kind of under siege, and there's constant, should I be in here or not? Whose side am I really on? You could not be in that lecture without being aware there are a lot of people outside.
I think if you're saying that protest is a big part of what Sussex is about, and for me it is, and I think it's very important, and I think it's also very important in the way that the university is seen from the outside, then it's very difficult and almost dangerous to make a distinction between good and bad protests. I think if students
surely
feel...
it's absolutely crucial.
If you don't
make a distinction between proper, decent, peaceful academically sustainable protest, an unsustainable protest which is potentially violent, wholly disruptive, and doesn't encourage debate, that surely can't rebound to Sussex's credit.
Debates can happen in different contexts. Not always in that context, and sometimes if there isn't a protest, there is no debate. I think it's quite right that people demonstrate. I'm saying
non-tactical. What you don't do is you don't shout down ventilation shafts, bang on windows so that people can't be heard, push down walls so that debate can't happen. You don't do that. What you do is you take on the battle of ideas. Surely that's what we do as a university.
That implies that everybody starts on an equal.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You've got to be heard. You've got to be heard, and you've got to find imaginative ways of making yourself.
Ian Blair has got so many different forums that he can speak at. I just think we're not on an equal footing.
But why not? I mean, Ian Blair is the person who started the revolution in the treatment of rape as a crime in Britain. He's an important figure. He tried to, there's all sorts of things one might disagree with him, but in long as a way, he tried to be quite a radical within the context of the Metropolitan Police. Why just pick on him because he's a senior policeman?
Well, the thing is, I don't think you can have protests that's comfortable.
My understanding is that the people who were objecting to the behaviour of the police in certain situations, including fairly recent student demonstrations. And I think that's a reasonable thing to discuss. And what is definitely true, you can argue about what the right form of protest is, but what is definitely true is that quite a lot of students felt pretty angry about the thing. You cannot deny that, that's a fact.
The important thing about this that has to come out of it whenever something like this does happen is that it is acknowledged by the university, as well as the students' union, as well as the students, that there's a debate afterwards saying we clashed a lot and we have very different opinion about this, but it did happen, and the fact that it happened is important, and we acknowledge that, and we don't try and eradicate it from history.
Show when it came to Brighton, and I went with 3 friends who said, we have to dress up, we just have to do this thing. So I'm like, okay. So we go to the show and that's all fine, and we're tottering past the pier to a bar, and we're in various heights, but I'm pretty tall in 4-inch stilettos. You'd be enormous, but I'm kind of right up there. And so we're kind of ascending a height like this, and this obviously new student comes out of one of the bars and he goes, wow. This is going to go back to the ascending thing. And I go, have you just arrived in Brighton? He goes, yeah. I say, you a student? He goes, yeah. I go, you're at Sussex? He goes, yeah. And I went, I'm the chairman of the council. He goes, wow. And it just was that perfect moment where you suddenly just felt that real, that real move on,